Okay, today class we want to talk about the surface area of pyramids and cones. There are parts of a pyramid. Let's talk about the parts of a pyramid. A pyramid consists of a polygon base, which could be a triangle, a rectangle, a pentagon, a hexagon, and so on. But the lateral faces are triangles. Now let's talk about the heights of a pyramid. Pyramid has two types of heights. It has a height that's called H, that is perpendicular from the vertex to the base. So where this dotted line is, it's perpendicular. Okay, and then we have a slant height that's called a cursive L, and it is the height of the lateral triangles. Okay, so we call this height H, and we call this height a cursive L. And that's very important. The height that we use in our formulas are the slant height, which is the cursive L. So we always want the height of the face, of the triangular face for a pyramid. And we also want the slant height of a cone. And you'll see that later in the lesson. All right, so what do we do if we're missing that slant height? Okay, to find the slant height of a pyramid, we need to use the Pythagorean theorem, the height, the actual perpendicular height that comes from the vertex to the base, and half of the base. Okay, let's look at this. In this picture, we have that the height is equal to 150. We have that the base, the edge of the base is 200. That means this whole distance here is 200. But you can see the right angle that we drew from the perpendicular height over to the slant height, and it makes a right triangle. You can see that that distance is half. It goes from here to here. That distance is half the base. So we need the distance of 100. So we have another leg of our right triangle that's equal to 100. We have a height that's equal to 150. And we need to find the slant height, which is our cursive L. That's what we're missing. Okay, so what we need to do is we can use the Pythagorean theorem to do this, because this is a right triangle and we have the two legs, and the slant height is always the hypotenuse. So we can say the slant height squared is equal to 150 squared plus 100 squared. Okay, so we have the slant height is equal to 22,500 plus 10,000. So this tells us to add, so the slant height is equal to 32,500. And then we want to know the slant height, not the slant height squared. So remember, we square root it, and we get the slant height is equal to approximately, we're going to round this to the nearest whole number, 180. Okay, so if we're ever missing the slant height, we have to use the Pythagorean theorem to find the slant height, and then we can continue to fill in the formula. Okay, speaking of the formula, now let's talk about the formula. Okay, in the formula, the surface area of a pyramid is equal to the area of the base, and we talked about the bases. It could be a triangle, it could be a rectangle, it could be a pentagon or a hexagon, plus 1/2 times the perimeter of the base times the slant height. Okay, so here's a shortcut version of the formula. All right, so if we want to find the surface area of the pyramid, then we need to write our formula. Okay, so our formula is the surface area is equal to the area of our base, and we have to put big B because we don't know what our base always is, if it's a triangle or a rectangle, plus 1/2, P stands for perimeter, and L stands for slant height. Okay? Alright, so if we look at this problem, in this problem we have our height, and we have, we can actually find the distance of this line, which is half of our base, which is 3, but we don't have our slant height. So let's do that first. Let's find our slant height so we can find all of our pieces. Okay, so we'll do that here. So we'll say our slant height is equal to, our slant height squared is equal to 4 squared plus 3 squared. So that's going to be 16 plus 9, which is 25. So to find just our slant height, we need to square root that. So our slant height is equal to 5. Okay? Alright, so we needed that to be able to work our problem. So that's equal to 5. Okay? Now, let's fill in our formula. Now, the area of the base, if you look at the base, even though it looks like a parallelogram, it really is a rectangle. And the area actually, it's a 6 by 6, so technically it's a square. But to find the area of a rectangle, we do base times height. So for the area of the base, which is big B, we're going to do 6 times 6 plus 1/2. And then P is our perimeter. To find perimeter, we have to add all the edges of the base together. So that's going to be 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6. So that's going to be, and we can write it out that way so that you know perimeter is adding, and you just add all your sides together. Or you could have said 4 times 6. And then we found our slant height, which is 5. So now that we have all of our pieces, all we have to do is work this out. Okay? So 6 times 6 is 36, plus 1/2, 4 sixes is 24, times 5. Okay, so 36 plus 1/2, 24 times 5 is 120. So we have 36 plus half of 20 is 60, and 36 plus 60 is equal to 96. And remember, this is in feet. We're still talking about area, so it is square feet. So that's our surface area. Okay, let's look at the next set of information. Okay, when we start talking, and that concludes pyramids, when we start talking about cones, we have a height, the slant height, and the bottom line now, one of the legs of this right triangle that we've drawn inside the cone is the radius. Okay, so again, the height is going to be from the vertex to the base, and the slant height is going to be between the vertex and a point on the edge of the base, or the edge of the bottom circle. Alright, so there is a formula for the surface area of a cone, area of the base. Kind of looks familiar, doesn't it? That's what our other formula said. Plus, this time it's going to be pi times the radius of the base times the slant height. So short form for this looks like surface area is equal to pi times r squared, because that's the area of the base, because look, the base is a circle. See, the base is a circle. So the area of a circle, and the area of the base on a cone is always, its base is always a circle, so this will always be pi r squared. You won't have to figure out what the base is. It will always be pi r squared. And then pi times the radius of the base times r times the slant height, which we use a cursive L. Okay, now that you know that, let's see if we can't use that formula to work some problems. Okay. In this picture, we have the radius is equal to 4, and we have the slant height is equal to 6. So let's write down our formula. Surface area is equal to pi r squared plus pi r L. So let's fill this in. And I always use pi all the way to the very end of the problem. So we've got pi, r is 4, so that's going to be 4 squared plus pi times r again, which is 4, times the slant height, which is 6. Okay, let's work this. 4 squared is 16, so that's 16 pi, plus 4 times 6 is 24, so that's 24 pi. And when you put 16 and 24 together, you get 40. So that's going to be 40 pi, and that's a good answer. Okay? Now, your directions may say round this to the nearest tenth. So if it says round this to the nearest tenth, you want to say 40 times 3.414, sorry, 40 times 3.14, and that is going to be equal to 125.6. So that could be an answer also. And if it said round to the nearest whole number, you would just say 6 rounds this to 126. Okay, let's do one more example. In this problem, you'll notice that the slant height is missing. Okay, so we still need our formula, but the first thing we need to do is we need to find our slant height. So we'll do L squared is equal to, one leg is 12 and the other leg is 5, so 12 squared plus 5 squared. So we'll say L squared is equal to 144 plus 25. So L squared is equal to, and I'm going to let you finish the rest of this. Okay, so did you get L is equal to 13? Good. Okay. Okay, so now we found the length of the slant height, and we just need to plug that in. So our formula is surface area is equal to pi r squared plus pi r L, and so that's going to be pi r is 5 squared plus pi times 5 times 13. Okay, so that's why we had to find 13. And so this is going to be 25 pi plus okay, so 5 times 13 is going to be 65 pi, and 25 plus 65 is 90 pi. And remember, if you need that as a nearest whole number, you multiply 90 times 3.14, and you end up with 283, and that is square feet. So there's your two possible answers.